Hey everyone, welcome to this week's episode of my podcast, Is Breakfast Included? Now today on the show, I sit down with my good friend Toby Lawhon, lead singer and co-founder of the band Marquis of Vaudeville. Now these guys have been around since 2009. They put on amazing shows. They make amazing music. It's kind of more of a production than a band, and we discussed that in the interview. Toby's also going to tell us a story about learning to play guitar, joining his first band, and 3 shows in, doing a major label showcase for Geffen Records. He'll tell us all about that, as well as everything else going on with the band. Let's check it out.
Yeah, let's do it.
Yeah, okay, man. Tell everyone who you are.
Who am I? My name's Toby Lawhon. I am the founding member, lead singer, and leader of the band Marquis of Vaudeville.
Have you always been a musician all your life?
I always sang to myself in school, and everyone. Somebody told me years later. They were like, "I always thought you were talking to yourself. Like I thought you were weird because I thought you were talking to yourself, and then I realized you're always singing." And so I didn't start playing guitar until I was about probably 19. So around 18, 19, somewhere in there. The reason I started playing is because I just love music so much, and I was always artistically inclined, and my cousin was actually the reason I started playing music. That's Brent Thompson, Officer Brent Thompson, who passed away, of course, in the attack in 2017. I think it was in downtown Dallas. Brent had he was the one who always had a guitar, and I remember going over there and just playing around on his guitar, and then of course Brian Getty, who I grew up with and was also a founding member of this band. He started playing fairly young, but I didn't have an instrument. My father played in bands when he was younger, when he was a teenager, but he didn't really, he kind of knew some chords. He was a singer. He didn't really.
I was going to ask,
guitar.
did anyone else in your family play? Or
yeah, not before. I mean, my older brother kind of played around. He had a guitar for a short time, but maybe several months, and he didn't really play very much. But there wasn't a lot of music around my family, my immediate family. I think my dad's bands, if I can remember, and he'll correct me later if I'm wrong, but I think they were called. One was kind of like a heavy metal, which around that time was Hendrix. And it was kind of psychedelic heavy metal called Paleocrystic Bananas or something like that. And then I think he was in like a Beatles type. Yeah. He was in a Beatles type band called Question Mark Incorporated. I think they were. These
are great names.
Yeah.
These are great names.
Yeah. So it was definitely, I don't know if he was involved in naming the bands, but if he was definitely a good namer of bands.
Yeah.
I mean, but my entire life, he didn't play, he didn't really sing, and it wasn't until later that he got involved in my whole family got involved in music.
Yeah, you could a lot.
It was after me.
Yeah, I'm very familiar with your family, and a lot of people in your family are musicians. Your cousin or your niece, I'm sorry.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Yeah,
in London.
How long after you started playing guitar did you start writing your own material, or did you kind of just play cover songs? Or
well, what I did at first is I kind of played around. Like I said, Brent had this guitar, this acoustic guitar, and he basically we would play around on it, and man, this thing, it was a no-name brand. It had the worst action, and I literally at first I had to use my right hand to push my fingers into place and make them, because it was so the strings they had on there were so heavy and the action was so terrible. So that's what I learned on. So after I moved to something that was,
I think we all passed that guitar around in Corsicana.
that one guitar, yeah. So what's funny is when you move on to something else, then you're like, wow, this is super easy. So yeah, it was Brent and I would kind of play around. He let me borrow that guitar, and he was just like, "Yeah, I think he had another one, and he was just like, "Yeah, go ahead and take it." And that's what I started playing on. Okay. Brent basically gave me my first guitar, Brent he's my cousin, and I grew up with him. I loved him dearly, and so he and I shared the love of music. So I would just learn what I could, like anything, man, anything rock. I would play it, and then I think I started noodling around on that guitar and coming up with my own stuff. But I just always never really, you come up with parts, you come up with, and do you ever really develop a song early on? Maybe, but a lot of stuff that I just thought was throwaway, and I just didn't think I was ready for like a full song. I think I wrote my first full song around the time that I was actually playing with Star as Agora, which was with Derek Taylor and Brian.
Was that
Getty.
your first band?
It was my first band, if you double out spool, but we never played a show. Yeah. So I was basically, Derek asked me if I wanted to play guitar with him, and I was like, yeah, man, of course I do. And so, I'd been playing maybe a few years at that point, and I said, if you feel that I can do it, and he just said, I see you playing. We go and we sit down in the park and play and whatever. And he's like, I can tell you have the ability. And so he's like, I think, I'll just guide you along. I was green. I didn't know what I was doing. So,
it's funny because, Derek, there's been a handful of people that have been in his presence throughout life, and they've all gone on to become amazing musicians, yourself included.
Thank you, man. Thank you. Yeah, the thing about
myself excluded.
I highly doubt that. I bet you're being modest, aren't you? Derek. The one thing that Derek was pretty much, a mentor as far as how to make things happen with music, and how to even how to write and that sort of thing. And I think the Derek's brilliance, I think his genius is with discipline.
Yeah.
Because, he wants to figure something out. He wants to learn how to do it. He does it. He just studies and he does it. Guitar. At one point he worked with me at Midway Home Entertainment in the gaming industry, and he didn't know anything about coding or gaming on computers or anything. And he basically studied and learned it all. And then he and I were like writing, we were creating our own games at that point. Like I was doing like graphic design and this little, like super simplistic games. But now he's making a game by himself. It's his discipline that I think he when he sets his mind to something, he really focuses on it, and he works really hard. Yeah. And sometimes at the detriment to other things. But that's generally what happens with brilliance or genius.
I feel very fortunate to have been part of his circle for all these years, and even though we go sometimes a while without talking, once we get together, it's just all there. But anybody I talk to and his name comes up, I always say, like, dude, that was the first time I was in the presence of greatness, and I knew it when I was 17.
Yeah.
Yeah. You just saw it, his discipline, his genius, and people would tell him like, you're gifted, and then he would say, I'm not gifted, I just practice. I put the work in.
Worked really hard. Yeah. So, and I think that was, you and I were talking a little bit before. I think that was probably one of the things that when he and I started hanging out, that I never bothered him about guitar. Everyone was
Yeah.
always wanting him to play for him, and and wanting to talk about guitar and wanting something from him. I didn't want anything from him. I was just just being his friend. And so I think that's maybe one of the things that kind of drew us together is that he was like, well, that guy clearly he's just I like him. He doesn't want anything from me.
Yeah,
he doesn't want me to. I'm not a performing monkey
Yeah,
for him.
yeah, yeah.
And so
you guys started Star as Agora yourself, Derek and Brian Getty.
it was Ray Riandu from Machines of Love and Grace
That's
that
right.
we started Star as Agora with, actually, and then we brought Brian in later. So what happened was Derek asked me to play in the band Double Out Spool. I used to go watch Double Out Spool when Brian and Derek played in the band. I would and I think you had Casey on. I would go see Dusu and a lot of local bands. Yeah. So
Casey Hess.
yeah, Casey Hess. Yeah. What ended up happening is Derek asked me to play in Double Out Spool. We started rehearsing, getting ready to play our first show. And right around the time that we were going to, and if my apologies, Derek, if I get any of this wrong, but I tend to forget dates and things like that. But so what ended up happening was we were about to play our first show. It was booked, and then he got the call that Rob Halford needed a new guitar player from I think it was
Fight, right?
Yeah, well, at the time I think it was two. Yeah, I believe, and they lost the guitar player. They lost John Five. He went to Marilyn Manson.
Yeah.
Right. So basically they were looking for someone to fill his shoes, and being that Derek was on Shrapnel and he was known in the shred world, I think they contacted him, and he flew out, and he met Ray Riandu, and Ray is as brilliant as Derek is on guitar. Ray is equally as brilliant on bass. Yeah. And so phenomenal bass player, best bass player I've ever seen live. Definitely, ever been in their presence and watched them play and heard them play.
Yeah.
And so, Derek came back excited because he met this guy, that in working with Rob Halford, he was like, hey, he really loved, he loved Double Out Spool, and he really loved So Long to Hoodwinks, that tune, which was kind of it was really different than the other songs on the Double Out Spool album. It was a little more, I guess, melodic, emotive, kind of, it was a little lighter than some of the other songs. The other songs were a little heavier. And he was like, I love this. He's like, we should start a band that's just like all this super, really melodic rock. And Derek came back and said they actually wrote some stuff while they were out there. And Derek came back and he was super excited. He was like, hey, we're going to start a new band. And I was like, what? And I was really disappointed because my first show ever in the world was booked, and then it got canceled so I still hadn't hit a stage, and so it just started. We started. Derek primarily wrote the music, and then he would come to me and say, hey, let's sit down and let's write some lyrics. And so he and I did a lot of them. There are some songs where there were a couple songs he wrote all the lyrics, and then there were other songs where most of the lyrics I wrote, but we collaborated on all the lyrics for the most part. So we just started doing that, and we put this one song. We put it on GarageBand. I think it was at the time. I think it was GarageBand. I might be wrong, but it was early on. It was like a music competition thing, and everybody rate your music, and this was late 90s. And so, the weird thing, man, is labels started reaching out to us. And if I'm not mistaken, I think we had one reach out, and Derek told them, I might be wrong about this, but I think Derek told them, we didn't have a drummer at the time, for the band. and Ray was going to be the bass player, and then what we figured out is that, well, Ray lives in Phoenix, and how are we going to rehearse? How are we going to do anything? And that's when Derek said, you know what, I'm going to call Brian. And that's how Brian got pulled in. So, but what ended up happening was, I think he told him, hey, we don't have a drummer right now. And I think they were like, click, you don't tell a label you're not ready.
Yeah.
And so we learned a lesson there. And then I don't even remember what label that was. Then Geffen reached out, and they were interested in the song Dustbin Parade. And that was the one that really was getting everyone's attention. And so what happened was we had to throw together. We had to get a drummer. They wanted to do showcases, so we were just like, yeah, we're ready to go. And we weren't. Yeah. And we had to get a drummer, get everyone rehearsed up, get Brian playing, in there on bass, and in the meantime, we had sent our like a demo off to Paul Nugent, and Paul he worked with the Nixons, got them signed, Deep Blue Something. He's the manager for Blue October. And he was working at the time, he was working with Sugar Bomb. And so we sent it off to him just to, we're just trying to stir something up, and, we get a call and, from him, and he's like, hey, I want to meet with you guys and talk. And so we went and talked to Paul, and he, like, one of the first things he said, he's like, look, I have to apologize. And he said, I threw, your demo came through, and it was unsolicited, and I just threw it in the trash. And he said, luckily my secretary came through, or grabbed that stuff out, and she listened to it, and then she came back to me and put that back on my desk and said, I think you need to listen to this. And he said, so he's like, that's how I heard it, because it was someone else. Yeah. It was so good that they brought it back to me and said, you have to listen. And so we started talking to him, and we got a showcase set up. And here's the crazy thing is that, like, we did a showcase for Geffen Records at the Viper Room in LA. And I think it might have been my third show I'd ever played in my life.
That's what I was going to say. It's like growing up with Derek, like early on, he had some notoriety. He auditioned for Armored Saint. He went out and did the Rob Halford stuff. This being technically your first band, how did it feel from being in your first band to immediately being thrown into showcases and such for major labels? Because I remember that time very well. I remember the phone calls and what was going on. I didn't know that was your first band technically, but how did it feel for you? Was it overwhelming?
I was like, oh, is this how it is? No, I mean, I knew, I'd heard this, I knew the struggles of artists, and I knew I was really lucky, but at the same time, it was just hey, when that was booked, when that showcase for Geffen was, it's like sink or swim. Yeah. Like you just you have to do this. Like you're going to have to step up, no matter how ready you feel you are. You're going to have to work and make sure that you're ready for it. So Paul threw together, like he's the one who told us, he's like, you can't go do that, can't be your first show. Like, because it was gonna be. Yeah. And he threw like a couple of shows together. Like, I think we played with like Sugar Bomb
to get you some stage
to get us some stage experience, and then he invited like all his bands and so it was, he had bands on the stage that were already known, and so we were just kind of thrown in there, and it was mainly musicians who were at like the first couple of gigs, and we just befriended Sugar Bomb, and we played with them a lot, and the musicians seemed to just love it, so that was kind of how immediately we were just like thrown into it, and we were just kind of making it happen.
Well, before reaching out to you, I don't mean to interrupt.
That's okay.
I re-listened to the Star of Zagora CD.
Yeah.
And that album still holds up to this day. It's a strong album. Like
I think so.
I remember hearing it when it was done and thinking like, oh, this is the best thing I've ever heard. And just listening to it the other day and thinking like,
still relevant.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's better than half the shit on the radio.
Yeah.
In my opinion. That's my opinion.
Oh, I appreciate that, and I agree. I mean, it was early 2000s, you know, but I think it's still relevant. It still holds up. It's absolutely beautiful music. You know, and that was the thing. Like the first song I ever wrote, it's on that album. It's the last song, "Starlit Moon." That's the very first song that I ever. I came up with the I kind of came up with the melody and wrote the lyrics, and I put it from front to finish, and I brought it to Derek, and I said, hey, and you know, and then we developed it together. It was just, you know, it was just the basic idea, and there was another one on there that was I kind of put together the basic idea, and then had some of it, and then went to Derek, and that was Motionless. That was
which is one of my favorite tracks on the album.
Oh, really? Awesome.
Yeah,
Thank you. Yeah, that was like the second thing that I think that I kind of came up with and developed, and then a little bit of it on my own, and then went to Derek, and then we basically developed it the rest of the way through. He came up with some parts, and so, but yeah, I mean,
so going through all the showcases and with Star of Zagora, how long did it last? How long did the band last?
Well, I think we did that, man. It was 99. I you know, like I said, I'm bad with years, but one thing I will say, we thought was one thing that was strange is when we were doing the showcase, we were doing it for Geffen. It was Jordan Schur, who was the president of Geffen, and some other reps, and he's the guy who basically brought Limp Bizkit into Geffen and kind of turned things around for Geffen with that band. And then they kept saying, "Hey, Jimmy's coming."
Yeah,
and we were like, "Jimmy? We don't know who Jimmy is." And it was like Jimmy Iovine, and I didn't know that name at the time.
Yeah,
and I was like, "Who's that?" And they said, "Have you ever watched an award show, like a music award show?" And I was like, "Yeah, of course." And they said, "Listen for that name. How many people thank that
him,
guy?"
Yeah,
and so. I was like, oh, okay, so all right, and they were like, so he's going to be here, and we're waiting on him. It kept getting delayed, and we were just like, we were wanting to go. You know, it's like you have all this energy thinking you're about to play, and it's like, hold on, and then it's hours later, and it's like maybe in a minute, and it's like, and so it just by the time we actually played, we were pretty tired because we waited for a long time.
Yeah.
But he showed up and he listened to us, and that guy said. And we were just like, we didn't know what he was going to say. Paul explained who he was to us. Paul was our acting manager at the time. And then after we were through, he said, well, guys, he said, that was the best the Viper Room has ever sounded. That's what he told us.
Yeah, I remember that.
And so I didn't really understand in the moment, you know, because I didn't know exactly who he was, you know, how immense, you know, that compliment was.
Yeah.
And so, you know, we played, after that, we came back home, we started playing out a lot. We got a development deal with Geffen based on that. And then, you know, Derek started having some health issues. Won't go in all the details of that, but, he started having some health issues and then the Geffen thing kind of fell apart, you know, and so, you know, I think Derek had worked really hard to heal up and get better, and then we started working really hard again, and then we were going to play Edgefest, so we played Edgefest. It was back when Muse was new and Muse was on it, but I knew who they were and I was a fan of Muse, so I was like, this is going to be cool. And so we did Edgefest, and unfortunately Muse didn't play because I think Bellamy or somebody, there was somebody in the band broke their hand or something like that. I can't remember, or hurt their hand, so that they weren't there. But still, that's Edgefest was a big deal.
Yeah.
Locally, and so we played it, and then Derek started feeling bad again. His health started, going downhill again. And he just basically said, "Hey." And while he wasn't feeling well, and we were on a hiatus, I guess I could say I was writing. I was like, I've developed after working, and doing this with Derek. I developed, writing skills, and I was writing some songs that we could potentially utilize for that band, and Derek could sing, and then Derek said, "Hey, I got to get a handle on what's happening to me, in my health. So I'm going to take a step back and really focus on that." And I mean, it was pretty devastating, for me, and I think also for Brian. But I mean, I understand, why he did it and what he was going through. He didn't know, if it was life threatening or what. It was completely unknown.
It's all confusing.
Yeah, it was very confusing, completely unknown. So I was like, okay, man. And so I went to Brian, who again is a guitar player who was playing bass though, and he's a bass player too now. But he developed his bass skills in Stars Agora. And I went to Brian and I said, "Hey, dude, I don't know what else to do with myself. This is really all I know now, and it's all. And I love it, and so." I don't want to try to do something else. I want to do this. This is what I want to do. And I said, I wrote these songs for Stars Agora. Why don't you and I, if you want to come along for the ride, why don't we start doing it ourselves and put a band together? And I said, I can sing. I mean, I was singing backups in Stars Agora, and playing guitar, but I said, and I never fronted a band, and I said, but I can do it. And so Brian's like, yeah, man, he liked the songs. He's like, these are good songs. Let's do it. And so I think that was in around 2005 or so, 2004, 2005. So I think that Stars Agora just had like a run from like late 90s to 2004, if I'm not mistaken. I might be wrong on the dates, but so I mean that's kind of how we fell into starting to. I was writing, and it was kind of
starting to do what
and of course it was influenced by Stars Agora. It still had some of the same elements, and because that's what I loved. That was the music I loved. So. Stars Agora was a lot more spacey and spacey alternative, I'd say. And then I was going with what I was writing more of a 60s psychedelic 70s glam kind of thing. And the first songs were very much very kind of glammy. There's Divine, another song, Venus to Vertigo. And these songs have never even officially been released on an album. They're out there. You can get them online, but we never put them on an official album. Let's see, what's the other one? Every Day Forever. And then we wrote a song called Bright Star Hope, and we recorded it. And then I was like, all right, that was kind of the time when I knew when Bright Star Hope was finished, it was like, we've got something here. This is cool. It's got a little bit of the Beatles in it, has a little bit of Zeppelin. But it was our own thing, We just took all our influences and kind of did our own thing. So
Marquis of Vaudeville was your second band. Double
really?
Spool was really the first band, but Stars Agora you had all this attention with. So Marquis of Vaudeville was really officially your second band.
Yeah, honestly, what ended up happening was, Double Out Spool. I never really performed live with that.
Yeah.
I rehearsed and we wrote some stuff, but it ended up melding into Stars Agora, and then it was Stars Agora, and then when Brian and I started this other thing, this 60s psychedelic 70s glam kind of band, we call ourselves Wonderful. FOOL, and we ran with that for a little while, and it wasn't until we had this certain lineup, and then we decided grab some water. We decided to we were getting some new members, and then we were getting the new members. We brought in Philip Helms from he was the drummer for The Vanished.
Yeah.
He was the founding member of Marquis, when the official Marquis of Vaudeville band. We brought them in, and we're like, all right, we've got these songs, we're going to do something different. I think the reason we decided to change kind of the name and the image and everything is because I put together this song. I wrote the basics of this song called An Ordinary Day. And it's got, it really has this kind of old world feel to it. It's kind of creepy and dark yet playful.
Yeah.
Much in much like the work of Tim Burton or Danny Elfman, it was really cool. And I was like, I really like that. I really like the how this turned out, and I want to write a little more, like this. And so that's what ended up happening. We had new members. We had this new kind of direction as far as the music was going.
Yeah, a new vibe.
Yeah. And so, and I already, I grew up in Corsicana listening to The Cure in my room, reading the Crow graphic novel. So I was as goth as you could be in a small town in Corsicana, but that's a bit of who we are, dark yet playful. So It was like it just started coming out in the music, and I think it was around that time we were trying to come up with, I dress a little bit like Victorian when I go out and stuff, and so. And Phil did too. It was like that was kind of his vibe. And it was like, what we should all let's just dress the way we dress.
Yeah.
We'll bring it into the band. And I think what we decided on, we were trying to come up with a name, and what ultimately did it and made us and set the bar so high with what we do as far as the way we look, the music we play, the way the merch looks, everything was the shows we put on, the really elaborate shows.
Yeah.
We were throwing out names, and I was like, what about Marquis of Vaudeville? And everybody, we sat on it for a little while, and everyone was like, yeah, we like that. I was like, well, do we want to do the Marquis? Nah, there's too many bands with the in front of the names. It's just Marquis of Vaudeville. And so I told everyone, I said, all right, if we name our band this, then we cannot get up on stage in jeans and t-shirts.
Yeah.
And like you can't have this name and not live up to that name in every way.
Yeah.
And I think that I've never turned back on that. It is everything we've done. Like I said.
No, watching your band's progression, like the songs are really cool, but your stage show it's almost just has to be as over the top as the music,
right?
And it's always a production.
Yeah, exactly. And so that was the thing is I was like, you guys understand if we choose this name, and everyone agreed. So everyone said, all right, we're going to go with that. And I was like, all right, if we're going to do that, then why don't, if we're Marquis of Vaudeville, then why don't our first show we play as this band, why don't we do an event? It's not a show. Let's do an experience. Let's get a lot of variety acts that would have been true to vaudeville. And I don't know how many people out there know what vaudeville is, but they've probably heard the name. But vaudeville is before TV, before radio.
Yeah.
You would either, for entertainment, you either went to the circus or the sideshow, or you went to the symphony, or you went to the ballet, or you went to the theater, right?
Yeah.
Well, vaudeville was all of it. It was basically this circuit that these people would get on the stage back in the last turn of the century. Like they would get on the stage, and there would be magic, there would be comedy, there would be music, there would be dance. It was just everything, a variety. And so that's what Marquis of Vaudeville meant to us, a variety of the extravagant. Yeah. And we thought that kind of said something about the music, because the music is different. It has its influences, but a lot of people, when they hear the music and they talk to us about it, they're like, I don't know. I mean, some bands kind of come to mind, but I just think it's pretty unique.
Way to kind of pinpoint.
Right. And so
it's your own thing, really.
Yeah, exactly. So I was like, all right, well, if that's what the name means, then let's do that on the stage. Let's put a magician on the stage with us. Let's, we'll have like a theater troupe do some crazy cool like vampire story or something. Yeah. And so that's what we went to. Phil being in the Vanish had a really good relationship with Curtain Club, and Doug at the Curtain Club, and so we went to them and he said, "Hey, we want to do this kind of thing, and we want to do it for our first show," and Doug was like, and we were just gonna do it. We just wanted it to be all the variety acts and then us play.
Yeah, no opening.
No opening act, no bands. And Doug was like, "That's not the way things work. You got to have other bands. I booked the bands. If you want to, I'll give you some time and you can have that stuff happen. Yeah. But like, or we can put it in between the bands." And we're like, okay. And so we did our first show with all that in mind. And brought 250 people. First show we ever played. Yeah. And I think Doug raised an eyebrow and said, "Hey, like something's going on here. Like that's interesting for a band to never have played before." And they brought 250 people to this thing. And so we're like, "Hey, we want to do another one." So we kept doing them, and that's what we did. These elaborate events where we would decorate the stage and we'd decorate the venue, and each one of them got more and more elaborate, and we'd have all these crazy acts on stage. We had a magician on stage with like an electric chair. Like, I mean, so
as you did them, did they become more and more like give you more and more freedom to do these shows?
And that's kind of where I was. That's where I was going. Is like. I was like, we went to the next one. We're like, "Hey, Doug, like, no, the other bands really didn't bring any people to the first show. We brought the people." Mm-hmm. So it's like, "Hey, we want to do another one, but like, can we do?" He's like, "Nah, you got to have bands. You got to have, it's done this way." And then
that's the way it's always been done. That's the way we're gonna do it.
Exactly. So we did another event, 100 more people, 350 people, and he's like, "Whoa," and now he's raising both eyebrows, eyes wide, like, what's going on here? So then we went to him, we wanted to do another event. I think we did 2 or 3 before we wanted to do another. I mean, we were playing other little shows here and there, but we told him we want to do another event. And he's like, "I have this date." It was like January. And I was like, and it was the only time nothing else was going on. We really looked to see what other events and crazy things were going on, because we were going to go all out with this. And we went to him and said, "We want to do another event, and what do you have that, and we said it needs to be on one of these dates, because there's absolutely nothing happening anywhere in the area on these dates. And it needs to be like a Saturday, because there's going to be a lot of setup. Yeah. We're going to have a lot of production." And he's like, "You guys do whatever the hell you want. If you want other bands, I don't care." At that point, he basically just said, "You book it. He's like, you just rent the venue." He kept telling us, "You rent the venue and you do whatever you want to do. I'll have staff here." And we're like, "We're not ready to do that, man." We were just like, "Well, I don't think we're ready." And then we started pre-sales like really early, and he called our drummer Phil. And he was like, "Hey, what are you guys doing?" And Phil's like, "What?" He's like, What are you doing to promote this show?" And Phil said, "We're out there we're doing everything you normally do. We're hitting the streets. We made a little video that we produced like just a teaser video for the event, and that's out there." And he's like, "You're going to want to rent the venue." And Phil's like, nah, we're not really. He's like, "Listen to me. You're going to want to rent the venue." And he said, "And you're going to want both sides." And And so he wanted to do, Liquid Lounge upstairs and downstairs, and Curtain Club upstairs and downstairs. And we're like, there's no way. But he was like, you want to do that, because he said at that point it was months away, and we had already like pre-sold like 250 tickets. And he said, he's like, national acts don't do that. He's like, I can't get people to buy tickets in advance. That's why I'm asking you what you're doing. Yeah. And he's like, we're just, the idea was create a sense of intrigue and mystery around the events. Not exactly, don't tell them what exactly is going to be there, but just, I would always write like this kind of Carnival Barker, introduction for all the acts and the way it was all written. And that's one thing I pride myself on, is my actual, not just composing music and writing music, but writing.
Yeah.
And so I would always write this, create and come up with this idea of how we present it. And the way we presented it was in a mysterious manner to make people think, what is this? I want to know what this is. And I want to go. And so that was what we did. And man, I didn't know what to expect. We were shooting, I said we did 250, we did 350. And Doug was finally like, you don't need any other bands. You don't need, we just rent the venue. Like, you're going to need both sides. And that's all we knew.
Yeah.
And we knew that to break even for everything, I think we had to have like 400 people. I think, with what we were paying out, because we always pay the other acts, and we had to pay for all the, so this one was a Wonderland, like a Twisted Wonderland themed event called A Clockwork Wonderland. And we literally got decor to decorate both sides, upstairs and downstairs of that. I mean, and not just going out, like, we don't have all the money in the world, but frugally, like, and figured out these ways to like get artists to create it, or friends to help, and so I think the day we put that thing, the Wonderland event, Clockwork Wonderland, together, I think we had like 30 volunteers like to help make it happen.
Yeah.
And
because you only had that day to get it ready.
We only had that day. Yeah. And I think they let us in the venue at like 7 a.m. or 8 a.m., something like that. And literally I was up on a ladder putting like the last thing up as they were letting people in the door at like 8 p.m. I think it started at 8 and ended at midnight. And so we had to fill, that much ourselves. And so, but I mean, dude, we built when you walked in, first of all, I'll say this. We were shooting for 400 people. And when we got to the venue, there were people at that side door. They were, when I went out at one point, I had to go to the car and get something. Yeah. And when I walked out of the venue, there was a line wrapped down the block past where Galaxy was, down. It just went around the block, like, just of people waiting to get in there. And I was like, holy shit, like, what have we done here? Like, because we already pre-sold, hundreds of tickets. I was like, how many people is this? And did they pre-sell, or are they just, going to try to get in at the door? And it was just, I didn't know what was going to happen. And then they started letting people in around, I think it was at 8. They're like, we can't hold them back anymore. We got to let them in. And we had built like the that walkway in Curtain Club, right? And you walk in that side door. We made that a rabbit hole. We put all this builder's paper up and put like, we had low-lying fog. So we made it like you're going down the rabbit hole. And the whole thing, the entire venue was decorated. We had like these models who were dressed as like mechanical dolls who would walk around, and they would stop and they would just stand there for a long time. And then every now and again they would move. Yeah. And so we just had all these things. We had roaming characters. We had all the characters from Wonderland. We had friends and actors portraying those characters. Like, the staircase to go upstairs to, it was like on the wall above you, just all these various clocks, and like one clock's melting. And then, I think it was a sign in front of you that said you've left time behind. And then when you turn around and look, and then all the clocks were on that wall behind you as you were going up the stairs. So there was like all this weird, and we made it kind of this crazy maze. And then, dude, we did that event. We had some people filming it, and that's what turned into the live footage of our music video, Utopian Playland.
Okay.
That's won some awards. That was from the Clockwork Wonderland show, and you can see how packed Curtain Club is. Just a sea of people holding all these giant flowers. Amazing. And I think, man, let's just say the official number was capacity, which was like 6, I think, 6 to 650. Dude, it was
the official number.
That was the official number. It was, I mean, that the entire, both sides were packed head to toe, and I mean, to get anywhere, you were just shoulder to shoulder trying to get through.
Yeah.
It was, I was like, wow, this is all we got to do now is just put on this amazing show, and that's going to be it, And we put it on, and then we played at the end, and then at the end of the night, people were literally crying. They were crying because they didn't want the night to end. Everyone was hugging each other, and I just, it was so amazing to see the reaction of the people that attended, and then I've never in my life gotten so many messages about how amazing the event was. Hundreds upon hundreds upon hundreds of, they've never experienced anything like that. They'd never seen a show like that. They did, the music with everything we did, everything was just so overwhelming for a lot of people. And I mean, a lot of those people are still our fans today because, that event. And then we just did that from there. We did Gadgets and Gobstoppers, The Twisted World of Wonka. It was always our twisted version of whatever it was that we wanted to do. Yeah. So
you guys have done, other than your shows and your music, you guys have done some pretty cool things. Like your music has been featured in shows and so forth.
Yeah. We have a lot of music in television and film. Yeah. We have our own IMDb that you can go online and see what all we've been in. But some of the ones that we're really proud of are Dexter. Dexter, we're in season 7, episode 9, or I might be getting that backwards, but the name of the episode is Helter Skelter. Mm-hmm. And it's an interesting placement of our music in that show, because it's a fight scene, a strip club scene, and a did you fuck my girl scene all rolled into one. Yeah. And so it was really weird usage of our music, but it worked. The music supervisor knew what he was doing. I was like, this is going to be odd. And then no, it worked. He made it work. So yeah. And then we've had several episodes of Charmed. We've had placements in. There's this feature film called Trust Me that we really like, that our song Core of Night was in. And I mean, you name it, dude. We've had sometimes there's limited licensing for television shows, and so they'll get licensing for music for a little while, and then later they have to get new music if the show's still on the air or whatever, like syndicated reruns and stuff. They may, and so we've been placed in a lot of stuff like Melrose Place. Like I have no idea what episode or where, but our music's in Melrose Place wherever it plays. And then they did a new 90210 at some point, and our music was in that.
That's cool.
And a lot of different independent films and stuff like that. So Brian and I, one of the things that we worked on, we even composed a lot of the music. We composed the music for the actual piece, and it was this thing called The Mechanical Grave, and it was kind of a pilot for a show that they were wanting to pitch. By director John Keyes, and John Keyes is he works with a lot of different big names, and he's a great director. But we composed all the music for the Mechanical Grave, and then we utilized a lot of that music as orchestral music, kind of in the vein of Danny Elfman. So we utilized a lot of that on our first album as segues. Okay. Yeah. So all those little orchestral segues, those were all actually for like a pilot kind of short film thing for a television show. So.
Right on, man. And we all know what happened last year in March when everything shut down. How did you guys handle that?
Man,
Were you working on anything at the time that had to come to a stop? Were you touring or?
Yeah, we were on tour.
When it happened?
Yeah, we were. It was March. We had planned this tour for March, and we had several big events out on the West Coast and on the way, and so we were. That's where we were. We had played the first show, and things weren't bad yet, and there wasn't a panic yet. There was still toilet paper at that point.
Yeah.
So I think we played that first show. It was amazing. It was at this thing called Wild Wild West Con, because we do a lot of, not only do we play venue shows, but we do a lot of special events. We play a lot of pop culture conventions because, let's be honest, venues don't pay a whole lot.
Yeah.
But those things, because we are what we are, and we built kind of this niche market with our music and everything we do, we can play those pop culture conventions and it really those have funded the band over the years, so we played one called Wild Wild West Con, and that was at the old Tucson studios out in Tucson, and that's where they filmed some of Tombstone, and a ton of westerns over the years, but Tombstone,
that's the one.
Right, that's the one. That's the one that matters. So yeah, the church scene where the couple's getting married, and then they come, the cowboys come, and that's there. That church is there at the studios. So we played there. It was amazing, phenomenal. A ton of people loved us, and then we were getting getting on the road to head to the next stop. There were just whispers of what was going on at that point, with COVID. And then our next stop was in California. So we get on the road, we get to California, all the news started hitting. We were there, we bought some tickets to go to do some things, like we were going to go to Universal, etc. And the very next day after buying that, all of those things closed, the show's canceled. And we were scheduled to be out there for a while. I was like, well, what do we do? Like, there's nowhere to go. And it was early, so we didn't even know, like, they were talking about closing down state lines and, and so we were like, can we get home? And so we kind of, and we were in just staying in this little apartment there. And it was like, well, everything was unknown, like no shows, like, one of the members' mothers sent us extra toilet paper. She was like, toilet paper's gone. And we're like, what? Cause we'd been driving and, and so we'd been reading and stuff, but like, when you're on the road, you don't, seeing things start like that start happening. People start panicking, start grabbing everything. And then you're driving, So, I mean, everything closed down while we were out on tour. So we ended up coming back home after playing one show. That was, and then what we did in the meantime is I was working on some new music, planning some new videos. The last two videos we did for We're All Mad Here and The Enigma Men have been immensely well received. I mean, they have been selected and won accolades, over 20 accolades all over the globe.
Wow.
For those videos, and we did those videos ourselves. Geneva and I directed them, and edited, and we filmed them. We had a little bit of help with some camera work from some friends that do that for a living when we're playing live, or when we're playing in the videos. But for the most part, it was independently done, from the frontwards to backwards. And so we started planning. That's what I was doing, like working on ideas for new videos. Because again, we keep Marquis of Vaudeville, that name, it haunts me. Like I'm like, it has to be on the level. Everything.
You can never half-ass anything.
Ever. And I mean, and part of that came from, working with Derek.
Yeah.
He, it was one of the things he's like, we don't get on stage until we're near perfect.
Yeah.
And that always stuck with me, and I was like, all right, I mean, that's something that I can get behind, like striving to just be the absolute best that you could be in your craft and anything you do.
Yeah. And with any of his bands, I never heard whenever someone would say like, we have to go to practice, he would always say, we're going to go rehearse.
Yeah. You practice on your own.
Yeah. You practice on your own. We rehearse with the band.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, and that's a lot of people, people that claim to do this and are the musicians and or whatnot, they that's something that people don't understand. A lot of people don't understand that. You practice on your own, and then it's time to rehearse. You come in, bring you bring you're prepared. You've prepared your part. You don't come to rehearsal and learn the part.
No.
So yeah. So a lot of preparation, a lot of planning, a lot of hard work, a lot of dedication.
Yeah.
And so, I'm grateful to have worked with him and that be his mentality, because it instilled that in me and what I do now, Yeah,
and your
absolutely.
band is cool, man. Like, I've always loved your band.
Thank you.
I love you and Brian dearly. Brian is quite possibly one of my favorite people in the world.
Yeah.
I've known you we're all from the same town.
Yeah, so, we're all from the same town.
So to see all your success, man, it always makes me happy.
Thanks, man. Thank you. Yeah.
I know you're always pushing this band, and you can see the how hard you're pushing it. And Brian as well, like the both of you.
Yeah.
But, when you would write those things that you were talking about earlier, like I'd read them and go like, what the fuck is he talking about?
That's what I wanted.
But it was all part of this production you guys are doing. It's not a band, it's a production.
Yeah, it was, it was just my vision, for what I wanted to see out of us. Because, and when we bring people in, you lose members over the years. We've been a band. We've been this band since 2009.
Yeah.
And so, people have come and gone. But, I always expect a lot of them, because, we've already built this and it wasn't built on just like coming in with some kind of lax attitude. Yeah. Well, I'm just going to come in and ride coattails it's hard work. And anyone can do this if they work hard and they dedicate themselves to it. They can do it, So, but it does take dedication.
It's not given to you. And that being said, what I said earlier, like I know that you and Brian have always been the constant in this band, and I don't think it would be this band without the two of you.
No, well, I mean, definitely wouldn't have happened.
Yeah.
Brian's taken a step back from playing live. We still work with him. He rehearses with us.
He just won't go away.
He just can't get rid of that dude, man. I think I've known him since first, second grade, somewhere in there, and I just can't get rid of Brian.
Yeah.
I remember. I think. Did I win a Chris Star at his birthday party? If you know what that is, I think it's an old action figure. So that's what's funny is, Brian started playing guitar, and back when we were friends, and I wasn't involved in music in any way, but I do remember one time I just singing to myself and loving music. Yeah. I remember I went over to Brian's, and I can't remember what song, man. He had the Kiss albums up around his room.
Yeah.
And Brian was playing, he was playing something on guitar, and I just started singing. And he was like, I remember Brian saying, "Oh, you sing pretty good. We should start a band." And we were like, maybe 13. I don't know.
I think I met him when he was like 15 or 16.
Yeah. So
he was already a shredder when I met him. Like he was going into that.
At that point, he wasn't shredding. He was just like he was learning.
Yeah.
So yeah, but and the thing is that Brian and I have always been friends, but we kind of we in high school, man, we didn't have any classes together at all. So we lost touch a little bit. I mean, if I see him, if we'd see each other, he was like, hey, we always were friendly with each other, and I would get in he worked at the pizza place there locally, and I would I'd jump in his truck. He's like, check out this demo, and it was him playing. He'd let me hear it. Yeah. But we just didn't see each other as much, and he was hanging out with certain people, and I was hanging out with other people, and so, but it never, even though he was off doing his thing, I was off doing my thing. It was never, there was never a point where we weren't friends. Well, and so I remember when Derek told me when I started, Brian went to
Hollywood
to GIT, for guitar, and during that time, I wasn't really communicating with Brian, not because we just lost touch, and Derek told me. I started hanging out with Derek while Brian was gone, and they had been hanging out and playing guitar and stuff, and he told me, he's like, I need to go out. I got to go out to get my friend, help him move back from L.A. And he's like, Brian Getty. I was like, Brian Getty? I was like, dude, I've grew up with Brian. I was like, Brian is one of my best friends in the world. Yeah. And so it was really weird that we both knew him, but we didn't know that, and so, and then he when he came back, it was like nothing ever changed, and I would go, like I said, they were in Double Out Spool, and I would go watch them, every show I was there.
When he came back, he came out to Denton to hang out with me, and there was another guy that I worked with that went to GIT, and I wanted him to meet.
Oh yeah.
And this is a funny story. I can't remember the cat's name, but I introduced him, and that guy goes, oh, so you went to GIT? And Brian goes, yeah. And he goes, what'd you take? And, what did you study?
Yeah.
And Brian goes, I studied mainly jazz. He goes, I didn't do those dumb rock classes. He goes, what did you do? And he goes, I did the rock classes.
The dumb rock classes.
And right. Brian just, okay. It was great. I mean, I think Brian always said shit like that at the wrong time.
Right. I think, but Brian, sometimes he'll say stuff at the right time too. And there's this is a story that I wasn't there to witness this, but Derek told me about this, and he said that when he was bringing, when they were coming back, Brian was moving back from Hollywood. They were driving. They were freaking tired, man, and I think that. They were following Brian's mom and dad. They were up ahead and in the truck, and they were trying to keep up, and they just wanted to get home.
Yeah.
But I think Brian and Derek stayed up, and they weren't well rested, and I think what was it? Derek said, he goes, Brian's like, man, I just want to go to sleep. All I want in the world is to go to sleep right now. And Brian was driving, and Derek's attitude, he was like, man, I just want to blow up. This is Derek's humor, Yeah. And Brian said, he said, well, if I get my wish, you're going to get yours. Because Brian was driving. Yeah. So, yeah, it was Brian, he's funny, man. He sometimes he does say the
like I said,
thing.
man, I love the three of you. I've known you guys most of my life.
So. Yeah.
But anyway, thank you for doing this, man. I do appreciate your time.
You're welcome. Are we at the end? Is this over?
Well, I got one more question.
All right.
It's called Is Breakfast Included? And if it was included, what would you have?
Well, I do have some spiders. I saw that in your art for the podcast. There's spiders landing on your breakfast.
Yeah.
I'd have scrambled eggs.
That's it.
Scrambled eggs. I'm a pancake person. So I like pancakes.
Nice.
I'll eat some bacon.
It's a little bit of everything.
A little bit of the classics, I suppose. And it's a little different when we were in the UK when we were touring over there. The breakfast was that English breakfast was a little different from what I'm used to. But
it's everywhere.
Yeah,
you can't get anything but. I just got back. So.
Yeah, right. That's right. That's right. Yeah, I loved it over there, man.
Yeah, man.
I'm ready to go back. It was like I want to tour over there more.
They're ready for you, man. They want live music over there, and they're doing it. A lot of places are doing it the right way, safely. So, well, where can people find you guys? Social media, all that. TikToks and shit.
We're on everything. We are the internet. We invented the internet. In fact,
it's all.
we even have a Pinterest. Like, if anyone even knows what that is anymore, I don't know. I think that might.
I think I saw that you guys still have your MySpace page too.
Yeah, we have MySpace. I mean, I don't know what's happening over
Tom.
there. Tom's probably. I don't know. We've got a MySpace. I don't think we manage it very much, but. So who knows what's happening, but over there. But yeah, so if you go to movmusic.com, at movmusic.com, there's it basically links off to all of our social. Okay. We've got a great website. It's got all of our award-winning videos on there. I would encourage anyone to go check out the videos. We're on Spotify. We're on all the streaming services, Pandora. And then also like iTunes, Amazon, you can get the music, or you can buy it. We're on Bandcamp, or you can buy it direct from our website, which is great too. So yeah, we're kind of all over the place, but that's where you can find us. And I think we're gonna start. Shows are starting to pick up. We got a couple of shows next next month, so that's good. I'm feeling hopeful about things turning around. It's been a hell of a year.
Yeah. So, well, I have a feeling it's all going to come back. But
yeah.
Thanks for sitting down with me, man.
Bernie,
I appreciate it.
Thank you, man. Love you. It's good to see you, and thanks for doing this.
Yeah. Maybe we can talk Derek into doing this.
I think I might be able to. I'll talk to him. We'll see what we can do.
All right, man.
All right. Later. Thanks, man. Later.
Well, right on. Toby Lawhon, the Marquis of Vaudeville. You can check them out at marquisofvaudeville.com. You can buy merch, check out their music, and see what they have going on. All right, guys, I'm done. Have a great day, and we'll talk to you next week.